Hi and welcome. This is Michael Bartlett and Marilyn LeBlanc from Santa Fe, New Mexico with deep dives with new perspectives. If you like our channel, please click like, subscribe, share with your friends, email us questions. Let us know what you're thinking. Good morning, Marilyn.
Good morning, Michael. How are you?
I'm doing well. Happy 1st of December.
Yay, yay, and a happy eclipse season. What's on your mind these days, Michael?
Whew, there's a lot. I mean, and first of all, I think, oh my goodness, so wonderful, 30 days to the end of this year. But the truth is, it's really not ending this year, is it?
No, no, it's not ending this year, but there's certainly hope. There's definitely some hope on the horizon, especially even though I've never been into vaccines other than when I was a kid and my mother was, that kind of thing. But still, we have the option of seeing something slightly different in terms of this pandemic that has changed our daily lives dramatically. So,
Yeah, this is the
yeah.
first year I think I've ever had the flu, just had the flu shot. So that was very interesting. I'd forgotten about it actually until someone touched me on the shoulder and I was like, oh, it hurt, but I never got sick or had a reaction to it. But I hear there's something like a 20% less chance of catching COVID or something if you get the flu shot. So I thought, well, this year I
Oh,
think
well,
I'm going
yeah,
to.
this is a very Neptunian subject, actually.
Right?
and with Neptune, and with Neptune in its own sign, Pisces, these days, these years, um, it's sort of like where does one thing end and another begin? But vaccines are meant for specific viruses, and with flus and colds. As a child, I got, I don't know how many head colds a year, even as a child. I think I've had every strand because, knock on wood, in my adult years, I've had very few head colds.
You
But
were
it's the
inoculated.
same with flu. It's same with flus. They're different viruses,
Right. Different
and so
strain.
you're not quite sure which virus, and so the prevalent one is usually what they're vaccinating you for, and hopefully it works. I'm still out on whether or not I'm gonna when the COVID one comes, whether or not I'm going to do it, because it would be breaking a decades long practice on my part. um
Like I said, I've
I
never,
do.
I haven't
Yeah.
had a vaccine since I was probably in grade school because back when we were in school, I don't think kids and parents realized that they had a choice. So, you know,
Right, we got vaccinated at school, actually. I remember that one that leaves a scar on your arm, diphtheria or whatever it was. Right,
you call me?
exactly. There were no permission slips that I recall. Maybe there was, but I didn't pay that much attention to it.
Well, it's
But
funny because back then there were a lot of things that it's interesting because now we question a lot more, right? Back then there were a lot of things we just did because we were told that's what we were supposed to do, which kind of like led to, Nazi Germany and other things because it's like, oh, well, that's what I was told to do. And here we are once again in this country right now, I think.
oh,
Just
we're on to Jupiter, Neptune, propaganda.
and
The
Mercury's at
latest.
29 degrees Scorpio. So let's talk about the deep, dark secret in the room.
What would that be?
I don't know which one do we want to choose it to be. Yeah, I don't know. Like with when that's an aspect of the North Node in Gemini and the South Node in Sagittarius, right? There's um, with Gemini can like start going into a forest and forget that it's in a forest because it's so preoccupied with each individual tree it comes into contact with. Whereas Sagittarius looks at it and goes, oh, that's a forest, you know he might call it his forest if, if it's one of those Sagittarians that believes everything's about him, but that's what most Sagittarians are about, right? A lot of the fire signs are very self-centering, but that's another aspect of it. It's the truth. What is the daily truth? What, it's like the daily rag that comes out, the gossip that, I think of Gemini and Sagittarius, it's the gossip. It's the, what's going on in town? Oh, did you hear what she did? Oh, do you know what he did? Right? It's that, it's not necessarily false news, but sometimes it's like playing telephone when you're a kid, where there's a grain of truth and then everyone adds a little bit to it until you get all the way around the circle and it becomes a whole different story.
Right. But it's funny because your mind went again to the communication stuff. But when I was thinking of Sagittarius and, oh, it's a forest, where my mind went, and this is another part of Sagittarius, is, oh gosh, I could do all kinds of things with all those trees. It was more that, entrepreneurial, oh my goodness, there's a vast resource that I have there that I could use to garnish lots of wealth or money or whatever. And it's funny that you triggered this, because before we connected here, I was thinking about today's session, and I had just recorded last weekend a show for my show Moonwise on the eclipses, but in general, not these specific ones. We just had a lunar eclipse yesterday, and there's a solar eclipse coming up a week from now. And but I was looking at just the whole notion of shadows, projection. Eclipses bring up conflicts, and when we're projecting stuff, that's one of the signs of something conflictual in us that needs to get cleared out. So what I did, one of the things besides, eclipses bringing up the need for I was really thinking about projection, actually. And the one indicator in one's chart, just in general, is, do you have oppositions? And because oppositions can trigger projections. And I looked at your chart, Jeff. I wonder if Michael has you have, well, you have you have Chiron, is it Uranus? I think they're in opposition.
Chiron, Uranus.
You don't have any personal planets, because most of your planets are located in the eastern hemisphere of the chart. And so you're pretty much in your own world, relating to other people. Whereas I have quite a few quite a few oppositions. I have a couple T-squares, actually. And one of them is Venus opposite Pluto. But this, I think it's a saving grace, because otherwise, that dynamic could get out of hand. But Mars squares both of them. And so but what came to mind in this Jupiterian time that we're in, with the sun in Sagittarius and all the energy that Jupiter is spewing out all over, is, I look at these millionaires and these billionaires and say, oh, how nice not to worry about, will I have enough money to pay all the bills this month, or will I have, I've got, it's it's like, constantly looking at, oh, okay, don't touch that nest egg, etc. And how nice it would be. But then, over the last few years, when I go to that space, which is a projection, actually, because when I get upset with the likes of Bezos, but it's, I'm going, but wait a minute, I'm extending the projection too far, because I don't want to be a Bezos, or never wanted to be that. it just would be nice to be super comfortable financially. That's all I'm asking for. But still, that whole thought of projections, and I thanked my Mars because it keeps me it keeps me in the well, sensible realm, you know.
Yeah, because it seems to me, you know, projections are just like, I mean, you just said a lunar eclipse that we had, and in order to have a lunar eclipse, we have to have a full moon, right? And a full moon is the opposition. It's that full realization. It's so bright, it's hard to not. It's such a bright, and the thing is, it is literally a reflection, right? The only reason why we even see the full moon is because the sun's on the other side of the earth behind us, so that it has the full light of the sun on it. So it's literally a reflection, and that's what projections are. We take this idea that we have in our head, especially if we don't want to own something in ourselves, right? And we go like, oh, this person's the perfect person for me to like throw that onto. And it's funny. So like, I think about that Pluto and Venus. So, you know, you were talking about the values, right? Pluto, like that absolute power and the absolute, like never having to worry about anything, and that absolutely highest value of Pluto. And Venus, like, you know, uh, having
Desiring everything.
sorry.
Desiring everything.
Right, exactly. And then so Mars comes in like this, you know, you're driving along like going, I value this. And then Mars literally comes in out of nowhere and goes bang and crashes. And you say, like literally smacks you upside the head, it must, right? So,
Yes.
hey, what do you, is this really what you want to manifest in your life? You know?
Constant reminder, what are you here for?
Right.
You know, and that's not been my path at all. If it was, I would have made different choices, obviously different choices.
Well, it's funny, you know, I've been really kind of sitting with this thought lately, you know, like what are we here for? And, you know, luxury, you know, having the means to sit around and talk about these things, think about them, read them, learn about them means that we have the luxury and the time to do that. And that says a lot already. And so, you know, the interesting thing on this planet is all those different levels. You know, what level is it that we feel comfortable at? What level is it that we just kind of go, okay, like my needs are met? Because I think, you know, a lot of us, you know, you have Pluto and Venus in your chart that show you it like on a daily basis, but our society is also set up that way, right? You know, it's also kind of an envy thing, like what, you know, like, oh, I wish I had that. Because what I think about projections and oppositions too is it's about learning to incorporate that other part in, right? It's like realizing how we do have that power, where we do have that ability, where we do have that means. And you know, you've used that, right? You've spoken out. You've been an activist on the radio, and you're teaching, you know, activating women especially, and anyone who's willing to listen, to how to transform themselves into being better human beings, right?
Well, that's very nicely put. Thank you. It's a
Well, I
different perspective. And yes, yes. Well, it basically comes back to a knowing oneself and and knowing, why I'm here. And that has been a long journey. You can tell from my gray hairs. It's been a long, long journey. And um and with many changes, with actually many, many, many changes. And uh yeah.
I mean, you know, today, so we have Venus, we have Mercury at 29 degrees of Scorpio, getting ready to go into Sagittarius. What a shift in energy! And Venus is still in Scorpio. So I mean, here, you know, our Scorpio moons. If there's one moon, I think the Scorpio moon, the Sagittarius moon, the Taurus moon. Um, those are the types of moons that put us into situations where we have to surrender, we have to let go, we have to, it's, you know, it's funny because you look at, I think of Pluto and Scorpio, I mean, they're fixed signs, right? But there's something about especially, I don't know, especially I think with the Scorpio moon, it has to be knocked, it has to be cracked open. I think of it literally as an ostrich egg. It's not a regular chicken's egg like most moons. It's a really thick shell, and it takes an extra hard battering. So, you know, all of our friends will look at us, you know, through our lives, and kind of scratch their heads because they think, oh my God, why would anyone want to go through those sorts of experiences? But you know, I mean, at least for me, I'm thankful for my Sagittarius rising that keeps me on going like, wow, this is going to be a fun adventure. I don't know what gets you through them.
The Scorpio moon thing, you group some other signs in there too, and I was kind of puzzled, although the
Right,
Taurus would be the polar opposite.
right.
But one of the things about Scorpio, no matter what you have in Scorpio, or no matter where Scorpio is in one's natal chart, the what's the most important thing that Scorpio tells us to do is let go of our egos. And it's not that ego isn't important at times. There's a reason we have an ego. Otherwise, we would not accomplish anything, you know.
Like having a skeletal structure.
Yeah, exactly. But there are situations that Scorpios get themselves in where, where the ego does not help at all, because you will not get
Result.
the treasures. If you think about Scorpio and the underworld with Pluto, to go to the underworld, you get stripped of everything. That's what the mythology tells us. I'm thinking of the Descent of the Goddess. I can't remember the name of the book completely, but where she goes through the seven gates of hell. And it's like the seven chakras. And at each gate, she is stripped until she arrives in Hades' realm, completely naked.
Right.
Just nothing hidden, and that's a metaphor.
That's
It's
Pluto.
all, you can look back and you can say, oh, this is what she was like there, and that's what she did there. This is what she lusted for there. This is, whatever. But that's what Scorpio asks of us. And
Doesn't
I have
ask,
to,
I think demands, because
well,
because it's a
my Libra rising is polite.
yeah, right. Well, I mean, it's removing all luxury, right? It's removing all anything and everything that's superfluous, because the truth is the other things that's down there in the underworld are diamonds and sapphires and rubies and I mean, there's oil, there's immeasurable wealth in the earth too. So there's this
All
strip.
the riches of the earth begin there. It's
Exactly.
the realm of true wealth.
Yes. Yeah. But sorry, you were continuing to say, sorry.
Oh, I don't remember.
Then
Sorry.
she gets down to the final level and she's completely naked.
Oh, well, yeah, that's where she begins to be adorned with things that far surpass what she had. So to return, I mean, she does return, but she returns refreshed, renewed, enriched, marvelous.
She had a great spa day. That'd be a great name of a spa, Hades Spa. Great
Well,
exfoliation.
thank you. Thank you for that metaphor, boy. And it'd
We
be
have
nice
mud
to have a great
baths. We have
spot.
mud baths, exfoliation, dermabrasion.
And you do feel wonderful afterwards, definitely.
I'm sure you went up to Calistoga back in the day to some of the mud baths and everything. That's a very interesting experience.
It's been so many years. Oh my God, so many years. But here, Ojo Caliente, I did go, this was quite a few years ago, 20 some years ago. There's a place out near Jemez, out in the wilderness, vaguely, but you have to hike in. It's at least then, I don't know. I mean, so much of northern New Mexico has changed in the time I've been here. It's amazing. Of course, so much of California has changed since we've been there. So change is the inevitable, right?
So the only reason why I said as far as putting Taurus and Sagittarius and Scorpio together, because in esoteric astrology, they're all fourth ray, and fourth ray is harmony through conflict. Basically, it's the drama-oriented signs. They're the ones that get themselves caught in situations that
Okay,
require. Go ahead.
say those signs again.
Scorpio, it's polar opposite Taurus,
Mhm.
and Sagittarius. All are signs that are in esoteric astrology, we say fourth ray. So it means that you have to that you go through a lot of conflict until you realize that's not what you want. Aaron Sullivan says a great line about Scorpio. It's like Scorpio has to get sick and tired of itself. And literally, I think, and to be honest, those three signs too are the hardest ones. We don't get tired of ourselves. If anything, we, while Aquarius I'd kind of throw in there too, we're happy like if no one gets us in a way, Taurus wants to be left alone. Sagittarius wants to be left alone to go and do its adventures, right? And Scorpio just wants to be left alone, but really secretly wants to be involved with people and connected. It's not going to tell anyone.
Interesting. Yes. Interesting.
So yeah, wow, so Mercury's playing this wonderful role once again. I'm going to skip to Mercury again. He's going to move into Aquarius, and soon
That's
here.
not for a while. He's moving into Sagittarius.
Oh, Sagittarius first, right? Sorry, moving into Sagittarius and bringing in kind of like a little bit more of a positive note, and then on the 17th, which we'll probably talk about a little later on, Saturn makes his grand movement from Capricorn, where he seems like he's been forever and a day, into the next sign he rules, which is Aquarius. So, and then getting ready for Jupiter to join on the 21st. So it's going to be it's not going to be a quiet month.
No, it's not going to be quiet. And then, on the solstice, the winter solstice, when the sun moves from Sagittarius into Capricorn, we also have Jupiter and Saturn meeting later that day. Right. So it's heavy duty energy, the eclipses, and because the solar eclipse next week, and that kind of movement, all of those energies, even though lunar cycles are, as I always say, very personal, when they involve the nodes, they're involving things outside of ourselves as well. It's sort of like the moon's connection to the whole collective public at large. And actually, in mundane astrology, the moon represents the public because it is the most visible planet out there in the sky. We see the moon more often sometimes than the sun, because you can, if you know where she is, you can make her out in the daytime sometimes. That kind of.
You can at least stare at her without going blind. There's a great series we were watching on Netflix last night. It's Earth at Night. And it's this wonderful thing that they're using
Earth at night.
They're using high sensitivity cameras that can take low light. So they're doing like full moon, and they're realizing that a lot of the Earth planets, a lot of the Earth creatures don't sleep at night. They're doing things. There's hunting going on with the cheetahs and the lions, and the whales.
We see all them in the shadows. Yes.
Yeah, it's really cool. So yeah, the lunar thing's a great way to integrate, and I think I think what it calls for, and just to be honest too, the other thing we're going to be doing on the 26th of December, day after Christmas, is you and I and Aaron Sullivan and Daniel Fiverson are going to be giving a talk on 2021. The gates of hell are open, and we're going to be finding ways to share the knowledge and the wisdom of what's going on, what's going to be likely to be unfolding this coming year, but also self-care, which the moon is what signifies for us. Depending on where your moon is in your chart and what sign it is and element, can tell you a lot about what you can do to help calm yourself. And
that's very true. Yeah.
And you're the wisdom.
Yeah, but we're going to be doing a Zoom session actually, and while we're mentioning it, we should also mention that people can get admission into that Zoom system. There is a slight fee. It's only open to people who choose to join us. And so to get registered for it, you can go to brownpaperbag.com.
Brownpapertickets.com.
Yes.
And just look up 2021. You'll kind of see it. It's got a really nice visual on it. I'll be putting the visual probably somewhere on here. I could probably flash it up there at some point. Let me see, actually, I can do it while
Right.
you can do that, but go ahead.
Brownpapertickets.com. And you can purchase an admission and you'll be sent a link to get onto that Zoom session, just as those of you get links to personal Zoom sessions from whomever is hosting the session. Well, we'll be doing the same thing. And then you can watch, you can have access to it uh, at the time it's going on live. And I don't know, Michael, what the details are if people want to see it later than that. They're able to still get in, right?
You can probably contact you or I at our contact information, or Aaron or Daniel. It'll be available. We're going to continue to have this available because I'd imagine this information is going to be really worthy of review several times over the coming year. While let's see, what should we say? Like, is a little present part for it. I think I think 2020 gives us a little bit of an idea of what to be prepared for, in the sense of that anything could be coming forward. So we've got some great talks that are coming up, and each person is going to be giving their own perspective and their own view on
Yeah.
different particular
It-
arrangements that are occurring.
I do astrology from a process orientation, a la Dane Rudyard's work. And and one of the things about 2020, the year that we're completing, is that several major cycles have been beginning during this year. The Saturn Pluto, the Saturn Jupiter coming up, Jupiter Saturn coming up. We've had those are major ones, as well as Jupiter and Pluto, which is not as long as the Saturn and Pluto, but Jupiter, Pluto, and then these are outer planet cycles that have a lot to do with how society at large operates and interacts with whatever's going on. And of course, the major piece of this 2020 has been COVID and how we're dealing with it, and that's an ongoing thing. Another major factor of 2020 has been the political scene worldwide, where we seem to have a dominance of fascist oriented leaders. And where's that heading? And so, the unfolding of a cycle, just as when I do the moon cycles, it's like, there's a theme that comes up at the beginning, but how does it unfold? And 2021 is going to give us a clearer picture of the unfolding and where is it heading to. And there's key points in each of their cycles that tells us where they're heading. And that's one of the things I'll be talking about, actually, where some of the things that have emerged this year, how are they going to be unfolding there?
Yeah, and I'm going to be talking on what to do and how to kind of help be at your best in the middle of it. Because the interesting thing is it's real easy to fall into the idea that life is doom and gloom and things are terrible. But the truth is, throughout history, there are people who thrive in very challenging times. And so I believe that as people step more into whatever their truth is and play their, each of us play our individual role in what we're here to do, because this is all, birthing or continuing to birth this new age transition. Um, it takes a while for new ideas to come in. And this is the fact that we're having these kind of like, it's almost like being put in one of those tumbling thing, where you take rough stones and you put it in the tumbling machine and it's just tumbling and tumbling and tumbling and tumbling. It's like what the ocean and the river just do to rocks, over time. That's what's happening to us right now, because we've been, humans have been really spoiled for the last little while, especially Americans. We've been able to get pretty much anything we want when we want it. For the people who have the means, but there are more and more people who are making so much more money, and many people who are making actually really good livings, but still can't afford just basic, living situations and things. And I think
Mhm.
this is all kind of forcing us to have to look at things different ways, soften our ways up, learning to, how to react, and, to be in community with one another again, and realize that, we are all in this together.
Right. And it's not just economically, it's also on a climate level. We've just gone after things because of their flashiness or attractiveness, and not really thought about the cost. And I don't mean financial cost, I mean the cost to the planet.
And the devices we're using right now to do this are prime examples, to be honest. Our cell phones, our computers, all the stuff that gives us the ability to do the electronics are these heavy metals. And if you look at the places around the world where they do the mining for these quote rare metals, which really aren't rare metals, they're actually fairly common, but they're toxic in their extraction. We're
and you see
creating
children, and you see children digging for those metals, and yes, and not being paid very much for them, but enough to get the food that they need.
right,
Yeah, and yet their lives may be very
shortened,
shortened. Yes. Yeah.
developmentally affected. Well, on that note,
Very happy note.
well, we're gonna next week.
No wonder hell is available. Welcome.
Well, in the next few weeks, we're going to be meeting, and we've got each of the weeks as they unfold. We're going to be talking about the significant astrological alignments that are going to be happening, and so, those of you who are out there listening, please feel free to send in a question if you're wondering about things, or if you're seeing some things. We're going to be excited to be talking about them, because it actually really is a very exciting and new time. I mean, all these conjunctions are literally new births. I mean, these are births of new periods, new rules of engagement, new ways of being in relationship to one another. The idea that life is a spiral, you can't ever visit the same river twice, this kind of thing. We're coming back around to the same similar position, but we're coming back with a whole cycle of knowledge and awareness, hopefully. But we're also carrying around a lot of that shadow stuff, like what you spoke to in the beginning, the shadow stuff that keeps getting brought along until enough light gets brought into it so we can deal with it. I think that's what this part of this whole big process is to shed a lot of light on these shadow areas in our world.
Yeah, well said. Well, I have some news.
Yeah.
My website, even though it's not totally completed, is up and open, published.
Yay. Where is it?
moonwiseastrology.com.
Nice.
So if you want to see anything about my work, you can go to moonwiseastrology.com. And contacting me is pretty similar there. Mary Lynn LeBlanc at Mary Lynn LeBlanc at gmail.com. But I have my Moonwise show and my Moonwise address, not on the website, but that's moonwise at ksfr.org, which is related to my Saturday morning show on KSFR at 10:30 every Saturday morning. And rarely, I can't remember if I think I did rerun a couple of shows once in over 20 years. I've been doing this show on the air, and those podcasts are available at ksfr.org under their podcasts links. I know I'll have links on my website soon. Those aren't on there yet because I said it's still a work in progress, but there's enough of it done to see me and see my work and what I offer.
Yeah. Wonderful brilliance, of course. And people can reach me on my website, Core Michael, that's CORE Michael.com, MICHAEL.com, or you can call me at 505-690-3860. Again, if you like this, please share with your friends, click the like button, subscribe. The next few weeks are gonna be really exciting. We hope to give you some guidance on kind of how to be in a relationship with it and look at it in a way that makes a little more sense. Thanks for joining us again.
All right. Bye-bye for now.